I was staring at my phone, reading a Facebook post from my own father, calling me a pathetic freeloader to our entire extended family. He thought it was the perfect public humiliation. He wanted everyone to see me as the villain. But as I read the hundreds of comments from my aunts and uncles tearing me apart, I didn't cry. I just smiled. Because my dad, in his blinding arrogance, forgot one tiny, very legal detail. I literally own the house he was sleeping in, and I was about to make him homeless. If you love seeing toxic, entitled people completely destroy their own lives because they couldn't keep their mouths shut, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this is a story of pure, legally binding karma. It started on a Tuesday evening. I had just finished a grueling 10-hour shift securing network infrastructure for a Fortune 500 company. My eyes were burning, and all I wanted was to heat up some leftovers and sleep. That's when my phone vibrated. A text from my cousin simply saying, "Wow, is this true?" with a screenshot attached. It was a Facebook post from my dad, tagging 20 different family members. It read, "It breaks my heart to say this, but my daughter Claire has become a complete leech. We let her stay with us out of the goodness of our hearts, but she refuses to work, eats our food, and disrespects our rules. Please pray for our family during this difficult time." The comments were a bloodbath. Aunt Karen was calling me a disgrace. Uncle Bob suggested they kick me out immediately. Even my younger brother, Mark, the 24-year-old who literally spends his entire day playing video games in the basement, commented, "It's been so hard on Mom and Dad. Thanks for the support, everyone." My blood ran cold. The sheer audacity of it was paralyzing. This wasn't just a lie. It was a carefully constructed assassination of my character. They wanted me to break. They expected me to run upstairs, banging on their bedroom door, screaming and crying. They thrived on that kind of explosive, toxic drama. But I didn't go upstairs. I sat at my kitchen island, opened my laptop, and logged into my bank account. Numbers don't lie. And the numbers told a story that Facebook didn't know. You see, my parents haven't held steady jobs since 2018. My dad is an entrepreneur whose businesses always mysteriously fail because of bad luck, and my mom is a professional victim. Where 3 years ago, the bank was foreclosing on this very house. They were weeks away from having their belongings tossed onto the lawn. I was 25 at the time. I had just landed a massive promotion as a senior cybersecurity architect, and I had been quietly investing every penny I made. To save them from living in their car, I made a deal with the bank. I bought the house outright. But as someone who works in security, I believe in impenetrable firewalls. I didn't just put the house in my name. I placed the property deed directly into an irrevocable living trust, with myself as the sole trustee and beneficiary. Legally, the house wasn't even owned by a person anymore. It was owned by an airtight legal entity. Our agreement was simple. I would let them live here, and they would pay me a heavily discounted rent to cover the property taxes. But they never paid. Not once. Over the last 3 years, I had quietly paid for the electricity, the water, the gigabit internet my brother used to play his games, and the roof over their heads. I worked from my home office, keeping my head down, while they paraded around, telling the neighbors how they graciously let their daughter stay in the guest room to help her get on her feet. I let them maintain that illusion because I hated confrontation. I just wanted peace. But looking at that Facebook post, reading the vicious words from a family I had financially carried on my back, something inside me snapped. I realized that letting them pretend was the biggest mistake of my life. They didn't see my silence as kindness. They saw it as weakness. I could have marched upstairs right then. I could have shoved the property documents in my dad's face and demanded he take the post down. But a screaming match wouldn't fix 20 years of disrespect. It would just be another dramatic episode they could spin to make me look crazy. I didn't need an apology. I needed a permanent solution. And it all started with a single email to the attorney who managed my trust. The next morning, my phone was a war zone. My dad's post had over 200 comments, and the flying monkeys, my extended family, were out for blood. Aunt Karen left me 3 voicemails calling me an ungrateful brat. My mom even texted me from downstairs saying, See what your behavior is doing to your father? You need to apologize." I didn't reply with words. I replied with PDF attachments. To Aunt Karen. I sent a neatly highlighted screenshot of the $45,000 wire transfer I made to the bank 3 years ago to stop the foreclosure. To my cousin, I sent a spreadsheet of the last 36 months of utility bills, property taxes, and grocery deliveries, all paid from my personal checking account. And to my mom, I sent nothing. She would find out soon enough. The silence from my extended family was immediate and deafening. Aunt Karen actually deleted her comment on my dad's post within 5 minutes of opening the PDF. It's funny how fast people backtrack when you hit them with receipts. But my dad? He was still riding his high horse, completely oblivious to the digital bomb I had just dropped. At 10 a.m., I had a Zoom consultation with my trust attorney. I explained the situation and asked him what the quickest legal route was to remove tenants who had never signed a formal lease. He smiled, a very professional, predatory smile, and said, "Claire, because the property is held in a living trust and there is no written lease, they have absolutely zero grounds for squatters' rights. They are legally classified as hostile guests. We serve them a standard 30-day notice to quit, and it will be bulletproof in any court." By noon, the paperwork was drafted, signed, and legally binding. I spent the rest of the afternoon doing administrative cleanup. I logged into the utility portals. I didn't shut them off, that would be illegal. But I did remove my credit card from the autopay. I wasn't mad anymore. The anger had completely evaporated, replaced by a cold, surgical precision. This wasn't revenge. It was just math. At 6:30 p.m., I walked downstairs. My dad was sitting at the head of the dining table, scrolling through his phone with a smug, satisfied smirk. My mom was serving plates. When I walked in, my dad didn't even look up. "If you're here to apologize," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "you can do it after dinner." I didn't sit down. I walked over and placed a thick manila envelope right on top of his dinner plate. "I'm not eating," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "And I'm not apologizing. I'm giving you your 30-day notice." My dad finally looked up, his brow furrowing in confusion. "What kind of childish game is this, Claire?" "Notice of eviction," I replied smoothly. "From my house." My mom scoffed, dropping a serving spoon. "Your house? Claire, have you lost your mind? We let you live here." "No." "Mom," I said, maintaining absolute eye contact, 3 years ago, you lost this house. I bought it and placed it into a living trust. The deed is in the envelope. The legal notice from the trust's attorney, giving you exactly 30 days to vacate my property, is in the envelope." My dad ripped open the flap. His eyes darted across the thick legal jargon, landing on the official state seal and the name of my trust. I watched the color drain from his face in real time. The smugness vanished, replaced by a pale, breathless panic. This is fake," he stammered. "You can't do this to us. We're your parents." "You made it very clear on Facebook today that I am just a freeloading leech," I said. "So I'm doing what any respectable leech would do. I'm finding a new host. You have until the 1st of next month to pack your things. After that, the sheriff will escort you out." Right at that exact second, a deafening scream erupted from upstairs. It was Mark. "Mom! Dad! The Wi-Fi just went down. I was in the middle of a ranked match." I looked at my dad, gave him a polite, tight-lipped smile, and said, "Oh, right. I canceled the internet. Good luck." I turned around and walked back up the stairs. My phone started vibrating. It was my dad calling, then my mom. The same people who had publicly humiliated me just hours ago were now banging on my bedroom door, begging me to open up. But as I sat in my room, a dark thought crossed my mind. 30 days is a long time, and cornered animals tend to bite. Which is exactly why, 3 days before I handed them the notice, I had quietly installed discrete, motion-activated cameras in the living room and hallways. At 2 a.m. that same night, my phone pinged. Motion detected. I opened the live feed. There was my dad, holding a hammer, talking in hushed tones to Mark, who was holding a bucket of quick, dry cement. "We pour it down the main plumbing vent," my dad was whispering. "By the time she tries to sell this place, the pipes will be completely solid." They were literally conspiring to commit felony property damage. I didn't go downstairs. I just hit the record button, saved the clip, and dialed 911. 15 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights illuminated our front lawn. When the heavy knock came at the door, my dad panicked and shoved the cement bucket into a closet. I walked downstairs and let the two officers inside. My dad immediately switched into his charming patriarch persona. "Officers, I'm so sorry. My daughter has been having a bit of a mental episode. There's no emergency." The older officer looked at me. "Ma'am, did you call us?" "I did," I said. I handed the officer the envelope containing the trust documents and my ID. "I am the sole trustee of this property. These people are hostile guests who were served an eviction notice tonight. 5 minutes ago, I caught them on camera preparing to pour cement into my plumbing system." I pulled up the crystal clear video and held it up. The silence in the room was absolute. My dad's face went from pale to a deep, horrifying shade of purple. The officer turned to my dad and rested his hand on his duty belt. "Sir, you have two choices. You can either pack a bag and leave this property right now, or you can leave in handcuffs for attempted vandalism. What's it gonna be?" There was no 30-day notice anymore. They had forfeited that right. It took them exactly 45 minutes to pack their cars under police supervision. The man who had tried to publicly humiliate me on the internet was now being escorted off my property by the police in the middle of the night. 3 months later, I sold the house for a massive profit. I moved across the country, changed my number, and blocked every single extended family member. I learned a very hard lesson. Blood doesn't make you family, respect does. And you certainly don't owe toxic people your house. If you've ever had to draw a hard line and cut off toxic relatives, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment below. And if you enjoyed this story of sweet, legally binding revenge, hit that subscribe button. Stay safe, and remember your worth.